Yeah, so we are live now. So hi Jyotsna, welcome to the Creative Conclave. By Creative Edge, it is one of the first and biggest in the industry conclave, wherein students preparing for design and architecture entrance exam come in and enhance their knowledge. So I would like to welcome you on behalf of Creative Edge.
Thank you.
And there are a lot of students who are here who would like to know who you are. So I have got a brief profile of yours. So let me just read it out for you because for everyone, because your profile is not something that I can really remember. I have to read it out. You are so much into all this that it's not that simple. So Jyotsna has been involved with teaching and mentoring students in the field of visual communication for past 20 years. It's a vast experience. Students take good advantage of her, ask a lot of questions. A filmmaker by specialization, Jyotsna has worked in several corporate and arts films and has been also involved with shaping curriculum and heading programs in the discipline. From being head of department for digital film at SE College to course leader and associate professor student at Pearl Academy. She has worked on wide range of UG and PG courses. Jyotsna has also preferred research papers at presented research paper at conferences both in India and abroad. Welcome, Jyotsna, to the Creative Conclave.
Thank you so much, Konark. It's great being here, and I really look forward to this discussion with the students.
Wow. So, for everyone's understanding, what we'll do is we'll be speaking on VFX and animation. So I'll
Correct.
be asking doubts, which are students' doubts usually. You know,
Correct.
मैं एक counselor हूँ, so I
जी,
I I generally speak to students who are of class 10th, 11th, and 12th level,
right.
and they ask me some questions which are very simple in nature, but answer might be little complicated. So, so my first question to you.
Okay.
हम VFX animation बहुत सुनते हैं, right from a range wherein a local institute teaching VFX and animation to what not a level, international level. So आपके हिसाब से what according to you is VFX and animation?
That's a great question. So I will talk a little bit about it, and then I will also show you some examples, show the students some examples. I think सब चीजों का base जो है, there has to be a base for everything, and I think animation is that base. Now, why I'm saying animation is that base is because for those of you who are science students, you would be familiar with this term called persistence of vision. Okay, and for those who are not into the science stream, I'll explain it. It's a phenomenon where the eye has the capacity to retain an image and keep transmitting it to the brain for a few seconds before and after that image has actually been seen, right? So this is a basic principle that drives animation and film in whatever manner it may be. So इसका जो सबसे basic हम example देखते हैं, that's when we're kids, you're in the class and we're listening to a teacher, थोड़ा boring हो रहा है lecture, corner of the page में we generally draw this little stick man, ऊपर नीचे करके we draw on all the corners. Okay, and then we flip the pages and it gives that illusion as if the man is jumping. I'm sure all students have done this at some phase of their life or the other. Now,
Correct,
this
correct.
is the basic principle that drives animation. So what you're doing is putting still frames together to create an illusion of movement. And interestingly enough, this is actually the phenomenon that drives your cinema, film also. Okay. So in a sense, animation is completely a part and parcel of the entire world of cinema. But today, in the refined forms that we see, it has become like a technique. Okay, we have 2D animation, we have 3D animation, and today there's an article in the paper about how this form called anime, which is a Japanese form of animation, has found a new set of audiences with OTT platforms streaming. So I'm sure many in the audience would also be fans of Naruto, Dragon Ball, all these kind of animes. So these are all different types of animation. So at the core of it, they're telling a story by animating still images to give the illusion of movement. तो ये हो गई animation की बात. अब आते हैं हम VFX पे. Okay. Now, VFX is something that is an add-on or a part and parcel to make your films or make your storytelling more appealing, and to do something that is either unachievable, like आप एक पूरी army लाके खड़ी नहीं कर सकते, या you cannot make a dragon really fly through life. So it brings your imagination to life in that sense. And or it's something that's too dangerous to be done, you know, usually in these situations. Now, with the advances in animation, it has now become almost a very convenient tool for all storytellers to enhance their films. और अगर मैं एक बहुत बेसिक लेवल पे आपको बताऊं VFX, तो अभी जो चल रहा है इसमें भी VFX है, क्योंकि मेरे पीछे का बैकग्राउंड इज नॉट अ रियल बैकग्राउंड. It is a background that is, you
So is
know,
mine. So is
yeah,
mine.
right,
Yeah.
right. So it's almost come into our daily lives in a sense. But yes, in films and in storytelling, it is something that is used in the best way possible. I think currently many people have watched shows like Game of Thrones. आजकल Empire करके एक नया Indian, and that's an example of Indian VFX, so that's
Correct.
even more impressive. There's films like Bahubali in India. There's films like Lord of the Rings, Avatar, you name it, you know, Avengers, Endgame. All these have employed VFX so beautifully to tell stories. And I think today's generation has grown up from the beginning seeing this. Whereas maybe, you know, you and I had a stage where we saw, films that were not so enhanced and so highlighted.
Yeah.
So this is a nutshell, I would say, about animation and VFX. I would like to show you guys a little video to make it even more clear of, you know, the kind of techniques. Shall I do that now?
Yeah. Why not? Why not? We're very excited to have it.
Okay, great. Just bear with me for a moment. Yeah. So I think we can move on with the questions, and then I'll bring in the little presentation at some point also.
So yeah, so there's another. I mean, we were so amazed to see this video. There's a question from a student.
Okay.
Is a VFX artist limited to only animation and special effects, or can take part of direction and editing as of a project as well?
That's a really good question, actually, because the lines are a little ambiguous still in the industry. However, what I can say with a certainty is that when you do, the whole concept of formal education in this field is a very new one.
Mhm.
Earlier, I think till about 5 years ago, what was happening was people were doing little certification courses from computer-based institutions just for 3D, just a software seek liya, that part, and they would get jobs as a technical person, as a VFX, as an animator, or as a rigger, motion capture person, that sort of a thing. But now with the introduction of these holistic courses, which are degree level courses, they
Mhm.
take you through the complete process of filmmaking up to your desired specialization, I would say, in VFX,
Uh, uh,
because it is impossible to understand the complete concept of a filmmaking until you go through that process from direction. So
uh,
today's qualified students who are coming out of such institutions much better have the skills to employ themselves in any sector of film. So going towards, in the film language, we have these two segments. It's called above the line and below the line. It sounds a little racist, but or rather discriminatory, but what it effectively means is above the line are the people who are the creative brains, the director, the script writer, the art director, the visualizers, and all of them. And below the line are the people who execute the vision of the director.
mhm,
Now, if you are trained in the complete process of making films,
mhm.
it is definitely possible for you to get into the creative overseeing part of it, such as direction, right?
Okay.
And also the second thing that has helped in this is films from being very very high budget
Mhm.
kind of ventures have shrunk down in terms of, because everything has come into this world of the laptop for us, the
Okay.
editing
Yeah.
softwares and all of that. So the affordability has become much more for people. I'm not saying that you can get very high quality stuff done very cheaply. It
Mhm.
depends upon the concept that you have in mind, but there is the option of doing independent filmmaking, short filmmaking with small teams, also ad films. That's also a very good space where if you have the knowledge of VFX, you can definitely be a person in the creative team who
Okay.
drives the conceptualization.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Uh, Another question. I was also about to ask you this question. There's a student who has asked you a similar question. So my question was a little broad in nature. The what is the scope of being in a job, or how do you get placements, and what kind of placements do you get in a college for the students who are getting trained for VFX and animation? Like, if there's a question which says, how can someone get into Disney or Pixar like that?
Well, I think first and foremost, your portfolio speaks, because it's not just about learning the software. That, yes,
Okay.
is of course the job of the institution, of the faculty. They will teach you the tools, but it also depends upon your own innate skills in terms of your innate ability to translate a concept into a visual.
Mhm.
That thought is going to come from the student. So I would say that first of all, focusing on your portfolio is very, very important. Just as focusing on your portfolio to get into the college of your choice is
Yeah.
important, so also working on your portfolio through your college years to create good, quality work that showcases your skills in the best manner possible. Now, within animation itself or VFX itself, there are specialists in many different fields. You could be a 3D animator, you could be a specialist in the lighting field, or you could be a creative conceptual person. Okay. What we usually, the way projects are structured in colleges, you work individually on some, where you showcase your individual talent, and you work as a team, because a film cannot be created without a team. you know in both cases, if you're able to showcase your skills in your portfolio, that goes a long way in establishing you in the view eyes of the employers. As you very rightly said, Disney, Hotstar, all these companies, a decade ago, you couldn't think of getting in. I have personally taught students who used to be like, ma'am, I want to get into Pixar, I want to go abroad, what do I do? And they would have to maybe, take a loan, go abroad, study, and do all that. But today, all these platforms have come to India. They're looking for talent, and they need huge numbers. So if you are good enough, you will be picked up by those, good companies. Secondly, this is of course of people who have the luck and the skills to get them in at the first go. Even if you're not into a company at that top notch right at the beginning, don't worry. There are plenty of other, VFX companies in Mumbai itself right now, in Hyderabad, in Bangalore, in Chennai. Not so much in Delhi, but yes, most parts of India, even all big cities are, have ones, and especially if you're in Mumbai, you're in the hub. So there are companies like Red Chili's VFX or Prime Focus, which is also a partner of the course, very exclusive course at IPM. These companies have very good opportunities for youngsters who are fresh out of college. Once you have a little bit of experience on your portfolio, then the next step is going into the big league like Pixar, Disney, so on and so forth.
Jyotsna, is it true that you just end up, even after doing VFX and animation from a good college, do you just end up being an operator, or there's something beyond it?
Yeah, not at all. I can't say that is true anymore. Again, it comes back to that point that we were talking about earlier about how 10 years ago the scenario was very different. 10 years ago, yahi scenario tha. It was more or less that you would end up being, if you focused on animation and VFX, you would end up being more on the operations side of things and rarely on the creative. But as I said, today the courses are designed very holistically. And your portfolios are designed to be to showcase your skills. It also depends upon your interest and the amount of effort you have put in, of course. See, if there are some people who are interested in going into the technical part of it, I wouldn't say operator, but yes, a technical part of it, who works solely on the animation or execution of it. But if not, if you have the ambition to work on the creative side, definitely there are opportunities out there with the kind of coursework that you will be learning. Because you will be learning the entire process, not just animation or just VFX.
Okay, that's good. So, if a student wish to be in VFX and animation, I mean, this kind of a course, how should he or she start preparing for it?
This is actually the most fun kind of course you could take, because this is the only place where your homework, your research work is watching movies and watching films. The more you watch, the better you become. Because the more you intensely watch and intently watch these kind of movies and watch, the other good thing is these days you have this wonderful resource of YouTube and Google, and you have practically behind the scenes of almost every big major film over there. So you watch the movie, you go back, you watch the tutorials on behind the scenes, the kind of experiences they had. Like this video I just showed you, in many clips you would have seen how it was shot, very plain, and there's no tiger, there's just a little prop in her lap, or no dragon. But when you composite the VFX, we composite with it, you finally get this, what the audience is seeing is this beautiful lady with a dragon in her lap, which is absolutely not possible. So this kind of videos for almost every major film are available on YouTube. So watching those also gives you a very good insight into how it all works. So yeah, I think it's a very fun process for this. It's not, it's
to prepare for it,
yes, it's completely different from the traditional school preparation or anything.
Correct, I'm sure. Uh, uh, does this require a lot of software working, or I mean, how important are your drawing skills when you come to VFX and animation?
See, earlier there used to be a great deal of emphasis on hand drawing skills, because that was the driving force behind animation.
Okay.
Now the emphasis is not so much on that. Having one or the other or both, that is either drawing skills or a very strong technical hand, or both, are definitely helpful, because you start with an advantage. right? But even if you don't have very strong drawing skills, it's a part of the course to teach you that, because there are certain things you need to know, like the proportions of the human body, to give you an accurate feel for creating it in the computer. So that level of training takes place in your course itself as well. So yeah, that's how it is.
Another question. I mean, I get this question in my mind a lot of times, and I'm sure a lot of students must be having this question. There are a lot of institutes. I mean, I don't want to name them, but they offer very short-term courses, 3-month courses, 5 months courses, 6 months courses in VFX and animation. And there are other institutes which are offering a 4-year degree program in VFX and animation. What is the difference, and what is the importance of proper graduation in this field?
That's a very valid question, Konark. We had earlier talked about operators, right? So it all depends upon whether you want to live your life as an operator, or you want to do something bigger than that, have a bigger picture in
Correct.
mind.
Yeah.
If you just want to be an operator, then a 3-month course is good enough, okay? Because it will just teach you the software, and then you go back and you practice it to whatever extent you can, and get work in some place where you are told what you need to do, and you know the software skills enough to be able to execute that particular order. However, if you see a future for yourself more as a filmmaker, more as a holistic, or in the advertising world, where you can bring together your knowledge of what all is possible through VFX, what kind of software would be best for what kind of animation that you need to bring in, कहाँ पे live action shooting better होगा, कहाँ पे आप VFX के साथ composite करोगे तो better लगेगा, all these kind of decisions will come. It takes time to learn these things. So doing a 4-year program, graduation program, will give you that holistic grasp over everything. Even things like sound, even these things have to come in. The exact sound effect kya jayega iske saath. When you know all these aspects, you are able to visualize and create the bigger picture.
Yeah.
I hope that answers that quite clearly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if we speak about what are good colleges for VFX and animation in India, how would you say it? I mean, what would be your take on it?
Well, I don't know whether I should very specifically name too many of them. I am currently a faculty for IDM.
Okay.
And here there is a very unique course, the specialization course, which they have in partnership with Prime Focus.
Oh my God. Oh, fine.
Yes, the partnership, and that brings a very unique edge to it, because
Correct.
first of all, it's a company that is into doing all these big Hollywood
Correct.
movies
Prime Focus
constantly.
is well known. Yes.
Yes, very well known. And so you have that certain assurance that if you're good enough, you will immediately get a step into the industry. Okay. Whether you want to treat that as a stepping stone to something bigger, or whether you want to stay and grow within the company, is, of course, entirely your choice. Also, the second thing is the course is evolving constantly with the needs of the industry, because there is an industry partner.
Okay.
You understand what I mean in the sense? Yeah, I'm sure. So this is one very good course which specializes in VFX and animation. You have many other colleges as well who offer it. And if you want to go into a traditionalist filmmaking course, of course, you have FTII Pune, you have SRFTII, you have Prasad down south, and many more. But this is the, I think, most unique course that I have been in touch with so far.
Okay. Okay. That's great. So there are a few questions from the students which are there. So I'll read them out.
Yes.
Which is better, 2D animator or a 3D animator?
This is like asking, which is better, apple or an orange. They
Okay.
both have, yeah, they both have different qualities, and they have different purposes in life. 2D. See, the interesting thing with 2D animation is it's the older form. It
Okay.
relied traditionally on more of hand-drawn skills.
Okay.
If you really trace it right back to the early 1920s, when Disney started off with this film called Steamboat Willie, which was the first film that introduced this walking, talking mouse named Mickey Mouse. And that was, in a sense, that's considered the birth of modern day animation.
Okay.
So yes, it all goes back to that. And today there's a new surge in this form of animation, thanks to the traditional Japanese anime form.
Okay.
So
Okay.
people are again watching, that 2D animation form with a lot of enthusiasm. बीच में थोड़ा सा die down हो गया था because suddenly 3D came into the picture, and when who would want to watch two dimensions when you get it more live, more realistic in 3D. But today again 2D has come into the relevance, but 2D is more of a standalone. 2D animation will be used only for animation based films. Whereas 3D animation is more integrated into VFX, because all these things that you saw, the dragon, Hulk, the way Hulk transforms, these armies in the background, all these things are 3D animation software generated. So it's called CGI. So CGI, that is CGI is character generation.
Okay.
So CGI integrates into VFX.
Okay.
So 3D integrates more with VFX, and 3D also has its standalones like the Pixar films.
Okay.
Right? So in today's context, I would say 2D is a little more specialist, a niche. There will be fewer opportunities there. But also the thing is, to learn 3D, to be a good 3D artist, you need to know 2D as well.
Okay. Another question. I mean, I'm combining two questions from Achi Sharma. What kind of portfolio takes you to work with Universal or maybe Pixar? And what should you do after BDes and MDes? I mean, what kind of portfolio you should make?
I think doing internships is very helpful, because when you intern with companies who are live into the industry, you will be working with the current samples of work. And if that can be integrated into your portfolio, nothing like it. One thing about the VFX and animation industry is that it is ever evolving. There is nothing that you can say, I know this, because the minute you know something new has come up.
Something new. I mean, it's ever changing.
Ever changing, yeah. So I was in fact just now a couple of days ago reading about this new software that is coming called Unreal Engine. I did not know about this, which has made the process of creating, like, if you imagine something and you chalk it out, give it a sketch, and you take it into the software, it animates it completely, and in a matter of a few minutes gives you this beautiful visualization of what it looks like. I think students can look it up on YouTube. That would be a better place. Even I'm not that familiar with it. But so things like that are coming into the market continuously. So I think interning or working for short periods of time with companies that are in the industry, after you do your BDes or MDes, or during, also I think there are inbuilt internships within the course framework as well. So that gives you good samples on your portfolio. Also, a little bit of freelance work, of course, helps. If you pick up projects, if you're able to pick up projects and do a little bit of work, even if it's small scale, it gives your employer an idea of what you're capable of doing.
Correct. So yeah, portfolio is obviously that
Yes.
image that you can show to your employer what all do you know.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. And of course, networking.
Networking, yes. I mean, that's the core of any profession.
That's the core of any profession, yeah.
So there's another question, but I guess you have answered it. To do animation course from college is helpful, or from Mac or other institute. So
Yeah.
I mean, she has already answered it. From Mac, if you do, you will limit your growth. But if you want to take your profession to the next level, you should always go to a proper college. Rania Kaushik is saying, ma'am, it's a very relevant question, I guess. I believe ये काफी लोगों का doubt होता है कि she is pursuing fashion communication from NIFT.
Okay.
And she would like to take up VFX animation in future. So can she do master's degree even if she is not having that background?
I think she can, because with again, it's going to vary from college to college, especially if you're looking abroad. Their requirements are slightly specific in each one. But as far as I know, I don't think it should be any problem going from because fashion communication is more oriented towards the print and photography. You will not be having so much of software knowledge given there, but it gives you a base of the understanding of the image. So I think you should look for a PG course that kind of gives you a complete overview of animation and VFX from the beginning. And there are such PG courses available. I don't think it should be a problem.
Okay. There's a student who is asking, can you rename that? I mean, just tell the name again of that software.
Unreal Engine.
Unreal Engine. No? I'll just mention in the chat box. Unreal Engine. Okay. Yeah, so we are almost done with our questions. So I mean, anything else you would like to add up? Do you have anything?
How much time do we have? Because if we
So
have some time, I'll run
we
them.
are here to hear you.
Okay, okay, thank you. Then I have a small presentation which will give them an idea of the processes involved in VFX. So I can just very quickly take them through
Sure,
it.
sure, sure.
Yeah,
Please.
thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'll just share. Okay. I need to go back to the first slide. Just give me a moment. Okay. Is it visible? Am I visible?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
perfect. Yeah.
Right. Okay, great. So here, the very first image you can see on the lower part of the screen is a green screen. So you can see them running on treadmills actually, okay, to keep up that pace and that illusion of running very fast, or, the motion that they are trying to show. And the upper part of the frame shows what we call the final composite, which means the animated character. You can see Hulk in the background. You can see several other characters in the background. These are all composited, because as you can see in the lower part, there are just these 5 people running, and the rest, the trees, the bushes, the background, all of it has been composited by green screen. Okay, so what is it all about? Let me quickly take you. VFX stands for visual effects. Okay, and the use of visual effects, of course, as we've already talked about this, how exponentially it has increased over the past few years. If you really want a definition, it's why we say visual effects is because it is something that is manipulated. It's a created imagery which is manipulated or enhanced, you know, uh, which is something that does not take place when you're actually shooting. So when you're shooting, it's something else, and you're compositing computer-based imagery to create a realistic looking environment, right? And we talked about this earlier also, that these environments are either too dangerous to actually shoot, or worlds that don't exist, and they use computer imagery and VFX software. So it's a combination of animation. VFX actually includes both animation and other kinds of softwares to create these kind of effects. And we were talking about jobs also. So we have VFX. You have specific VFX producers who oversee teams which execute it. They communicate with the directors and cinematographers to determine which scenes require them to shoot with a green screen, or which would require animation. So that is also a creative process in itself. Okay, this is a question that comes up very often. Special effects and visual effects में क्या फर्क होता है? Okay, special effects was something that was earlier used more before computers became so much an integral part of our lives. Special effects are things that are done on set, which are actually shot. Like, when a bullet hits a person's chest, you can see that burst of blood coming. Earlier, it used to be done actually by controlling a pouch that was placed inside the costume, to create that feeling of blood with actual some kind of a blood substitute. Today, even that is done by VFX. It's a different matter. Gunshot wounds, explosions, these kind of things were earlier done on set live. Visual effects is different because a lot of what is happening that you see as an audience is not actually happening at all. It has just been brought into the image later on. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I think it's the addition of the computer that makes this difference. There are many aspects to VFX, and the reason why I wanted to show you this was to just take you through some of the main types of VFX to give you a little more clarity on what are the kind of fields that you can work with. So first of all, you have computer generated imagery, which is like, completely, this is actually basically animation. You're creating characters, you're creating effects such as fire or a volcano or whatever, and you are using them to enhance or combine with live action footage. So this is the easiest example to look at. The art of actually combining that kind of character generated imagery with live characters or actors who are shot is called as compositing. Okay, and what you see is called the final composite, what the audience sees. These are all elements. The green screen shot is an element. Each thing is an element. So some techniques which are used to create a composite are green screen, rotoscoping, matte painting. You can see 3 examples here. The first one is green screen in which the background is removed and replaced with a computer generated background. The second one is rotoscoping, in which you have an actual performer doing something and you are drawing over that performer, taking that into the computer and then using that drawn image as an animated form. And the third one is matte painting, where you're actually creating the kind of, it's a painting, but it's digital. Okay, you're creating a digital background to be used in this green screen. Okay, these are some of the techniques. Another very popular side of visual effects is called motion capture. There was this fear that many people had, or rather actors had, that the computer generated imagery is becoming so realistic and so good now that our actors going to be totally replaced. Is everything in the future going to be completely generated? So the answer for that is, in the foreseeable future, no, because much of what is being generated to look realistic is generated using this technique called motion capture, which means an actor is actually performing that action. Okay, there are sensors applied to his, many sensors, minute sensors applied to his facial muscles, to his body, whatever that they're trying to capture, and this is mapped into the computer. And once this is mapped into the computer, your character is generated within the computer using this muscle movement to track the character's movements, which is why it looks so realistic. Examples of that is this Hulk that you can see here, the actual actor performing, and you can see how the computer generated character comes out. You also have in Lord of the Rings, there was this character called Gollum, who was also done by this amazing actor called Andy Serkis, who did every expression, and then that was mapped into the computer and generated as an image. So these are some of the careers that we can look at. So of course, as I said, you have the holistic filmmaker or director, or you can be a director of VFX, specifically working with teams who generate it, or you can actually be into the technical part of it as a CGI animator, as a rigger, as a light person, as a motion capture artist. There's so many more. So that's all this is about. I'm sure you will also be able to guide students on the right choices to make for a career. But if there are any more questions, I'll be happy to entertain.
So there are not major questions. If you plan to do BDes from NIT, so is it help in admission in MDes from Royal College of Arts, London?
That's a very specific question. I guess it will. It depends upon your abilities, of course, but NID is very well recognized all over the world. So yes, of course, it should be. But you'll have to specifically talk to the admissions officers of both these colleges to find.
Correct. So thank you so much, Jyotsna. I mean, it was such an enlightening session. We took a lot of time of yours, but we could get what we wanted. I mean, the overall idea about VFX and animation, how a common person thinks about VFX and animation, and how real it is now. So yes, we got a lot of idea about this.
It was my pleasure, and it's always wonderful talking to professionals who counsel students and taking students' queries, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day, trying to get a new generation of talented youngsters into this field.
Correct. So thank you so much. Thank you on behalf of all the Creative Edge community, and we'll see you around. Hopefully we'll invite you to our studio in Indore, and we can have even more interaction over this.
I would love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jyotsna. Thank you for being here.